With that first reading, I just want a couple of lines of history. I can't do it as well as Father Anthony does, but just a little background on what was going on there. When the Hebrews at one point were taken over by the Babylonians, and they were sent into exile. And the way the Babylonians did it was they said, all you guys, we want you in separate places so that you don't band together and try to come back at us. After that, the Babylonians lost to the Persians, and Cyrus was the king of Persia. And Cyrus, his way was go back home. Just go back home. We'll let you go back. I'm still in charge, but you can go back. I think God is telling us through Isaiah, he says, look it, even though Cyrus knew me not, that was the point, you know me not, and yet I'm going to use him as an instrument for you. I'm going to use somebody who doesn't even know me. I'm not taking, it's not a new prophet, it's not even from among your people. I'm going to take somebody from the outside, and you're going to see my work done. The work of the God that you serve is being done through somebody else. How often, I think, God uses instruments who are not what we expect. But then again, it is God's plan, right? It's God's plan, not ours. And sometimes I think that he uses those who are plotting against him as tools for us to understand better. You know, whenever we hear the Pharisees coming up and challenging him and all this, he allows that to happen so that we know. You know, dear God, don't look at that trap that they fell into. Please don't let me fall into that trap. You know, they thought, at that moment, they thought they were setting, oh, so clever a trap. We are so smart. We'll show Jesus that he doesn't really fit into the plan of God. Whose plan? Well, their own plan, really. And here is the amazing thing. Who goes? The Pharisees and the Herodians. The Pharisees and the Herodians didn't like each other, but they didn't even have the same idea of what God's plan was. But I guess they were figuring at that point, you know, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So this was the plan. They said, we're going to trap Jesus. We're going to ask him, should we be paying taxes? Should we be paying Roman taxes? And if he says yes, then the Pharisees run back to the temple and they say, see, he's saying we belong to Caesar and not to God. All right? If he says no, the Herodians run back to the government and they say, here is an insurrectionist, put him away. That was the plan. They figured, we're going to ask him a question that no matter how he answers, he'll no longer be an issue for us. We'll have the Pharisees and the Herodians, will be back in charge. Good plan. So they go up to him and they start by praising his honesty, even though they aren't being honest. They're praising his honesty, and it highlights their own deceitfulness. You know, they do this as if Jesus isn't going to see right through them. Of course he does. You know, I'll tell you how often that's the case, that people, when they come to you with something, you know, it's happened to all of us. But how often the case when people, they want to set you up for what they really want. They want to, you know, they come to us and they start with something that we're going to kind of be forced to agree with. Well, yes, of course that's right. And the next step, of course that's right. And the next step, of course that's right. When the real point is getting to something at the end that they know we wouldn't have agreed with. So here, when we've all lived through people trying to set that trap for us, and here it is happening that they're trying to do with Jesus. You know, I'll tell you how it happens very often to me. Usually, since I became a priest, people start out with saying something to you, well, God is love, right? Or, if we're supposed to love each other, or if you're saying we're in it together, obviously. But then usually 4 steps down the road is some liturgical point that they don't like, or some logistic, or sometimes a financial point. And it's something that, well, obviously I don't agree with that. One of the great blessings in our life, on all, one of the great blessings is that God is God. And equally as great is the fact that Father Holz is not. You know, I'm still working on that patience once in a while. You know, and my reaction sometimes is when somebody comes and you see it coming, you're going to say, just get to the point. What do you really want? Let's not go through this whole thing, how much of the catechism you remember when you were 5. What is the real point you're trying to make? Jesus allowed them to get to the end. Jesus allowed them to try to lay this all out for them, and then created a real teaching moment for them. He didn't just blow them off. He says, I'm going to teach you something. You know, basically what he taught them was, you don't know what you're talking about. He says, what's in your pocket? And what do they pull out? Oh, look, a coin. And whose picture's on it? Caesar. Hot stuff. He says, you hypocrites. You're coming to me trying to use this, and meanwhile, you are doing the very thing you're trying to accuse me of. Their trap was the trap that they fell into, was that they had already formed an image of God, their own image of God, and they were trying to conform God to their image. I want God to be what I want him to be. They had it backwards. That's not how it works. I want to know who God is so that I can form my life to him. Not that I turn around and say, I want you to be what I chose. I want to be the person that you chose. God chose each of us, or else we wouldn't have been made. He chose us. So that's what we look for. Not can I find a way to fit God into what I'm already doing anyway. It's a way of, am I doing what was in the plan? Am I getting closer because this is where you call me to? So we have, the truth is, we already, Jesus says to them then, all right, here's the deal. Render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Render unto God what belongs to God. Well, what belongs to Caesar? When they say, am I going to pay taxes? Is it lawful to pay taxes? It's the same thing for us. Well, yeah, of course, we need roads, so it's going to take money to make roads. It's going to take money to pay police. It's going to take money for courts, etc., etc., etc. He says, of course that is lawful. But render unto God what belongs to God, we do. We do. We are a people that belongs to God, who we are. Jesus gave himself to us, and we give ourselves to him. The very essence of communion. The communion isn't simply, I'm going to receive the God who came to me, but that once it's offered to God and I put it in me, I'm saying, amen, what's in me now belongs to you, and therefore I belong to you. That's big. Because the real truth of it is, we already belong to him. You know, none of us pulled ourselves into this existence, or nobody that I know. Nobody said, God, make me in this time of iPads and indoor plumbing and X hundred channels on TV, although I don't know who's watching TV anymore, but we didn't decide or bargain, God, put me into this family. I like these people, put me here. God just did it. You know, I say to the kids all the time, depending on which grade I'm in, what were you 20 years ago? The answer, nothing. You didn't have power to bargain with God. You didn't say, this is what I want, or put me here. God made you, even though you didn't bargain. God made you, even though he didn't have to. God made you because he wanted you. In effect, to say the words, God loved you into existence. So the truth is, we already belong to God. Jesus is just telling them, as he's telling us, acknowledge what already is. This is the truth, and this is a fact. Just acknowledge the fact, or else you're not going to get anywhere. He's letting us know, I didn't create you to get your stuff. I already own all the birds in the air, all the animals in the field. I already got them. He made us for us. And that is what we should be offering just as he offered. That is what we should be following. And what did he offered everything for us. That's who we are about. It isn't about, am I going to spend my life making money so I can give it to the church? Am I going to spend my life doing this? It isn't about the stuff. Jesus is saying, you give the stuff to Caesar. You give stuff to wherever it's got to go. You give me you. That's big. You know, I put, within the last couple of weeks, I put a video up on Facebook and on the YouTube, you know, talking about the bankruptcy filing of the diocese. You know, and in it I said something of, let's not get confused about who we are and what it means to be followers of Jesus. We are not a business that evangelizes. We use business tools, but who we are followers of Jesus. That's who we are. Who we are is our faith. Who we are is bigger than our stuff, all our stuff. It's always about us, and it's always about him. I'll give you the details. You know, as they unfold, there's going to be stuff coming out. And anytime there's something big happens, you know you always hear from me. I'll continue to give you the details as they unfold or as I get to understand them. But the bottom line is none of those details, nothing about the business or the legal system changes who we are. We are St. Raphael's. We follow him. And we are in it together. We're in it together with each other. And we pray every day, God, help me, help us to be in it with you.